Hello and welcome to the Cognitive Edge. I am Dr. Daniel Sabol, and today I want to talk about two different grades or two different school years that often determine far more than we realized, and that's sixth grade and ninth grade. These are not simply new grades on the report card, they're just transition years, we call them. They are the moments when students are asked to leave behind a familiar environment and enter a system that is larger, faster, more complicated, and often less personal. For many students, especially sixth grade, marks the move into middle school. Ninth grade marks the beginning of high school. Both transitions come with new teachers and new expectations, new schedules, new social pressures, and new definitions of success. Adults may look at these changes and see normal academic progression. Students may experience them as a complete disruption of the world that they understood prior to. Everybody sees it in a different way. That difference in perspective matters. Um, in elementary school, many students spend most of the day with, one primary teacher. The classroom becomes the home base. The teacher knows the student's strengths, habits, personality, friendships, and struggles too. Parents often know exactly whom to call, and the students understand the daily routines of being in school and, kind of what they're going to do. Um, then we have sixth grade. Uh, Sixth grade arrives, and suddenly students may be moving from room to room. They must remember their locker combinations, class periods, homework from several teachers, different classroom rules, and material for multiple subjects. They may be expected to manage all of this independently, even though no one has directly taught them how to. We often assume that organization develops automatically with age. It does not. A student does not become skilled at time management simply because the calendar says September. Executive functioning skills must be taught, modeled, practiced, and reinforced. Students, they need help learning how to use planners, manage long-term assignments, organize digital files, ask for clarification, and understand um, how to recover from mistakes and communicate with several adults, maybe multiple times a day. When schools fail to teach these skills, students may quickly realize or receive labels such as lazy or careless or unmotivated or irresponsible. But sometimes the student is not refusing to manage the system. The student does not yet understand the system, so to speak. Sixth grade is also it's a major social transition. Students really become more aware of popularity, appearance, status, and belonging. Friendship may change. Students who felt confident in elementary school may suddenly feel invisible, and others may begin performing for their peers because being accepted feels more urgent than completing an assignment. At this age, students are really trying to answer difficult questions like, where do I belong? And who are my friends and who aren't they? Because they seem to be in elementary school, but they no longer are. What am I good at? And how do I discover this? What do people think of me? Am I normal? These questions may not appear in the curriculum, but trust me, they are present and they are in every single classroom. A student who is worried about being embarrassed in the hallway may not be focused on a math lesson today. Or a student who eats lunch alone may not be thinking about tomorrow's science quiz. A student who feels rejected really by classmates may stop participating. Even when that student fully understands the material, schools must recognize that academic engagement and social um, belonging are deeply connected. Students learn better when they feel safe, noticed, and respected. They are more willing to take intellectual risk when they're not terrified of social humiliation. They may ask more questions when they believe adults will listen without immediately judging them. Um, this is why relationships matter so much during the transition into middle school. Every sixth grade student should have at least one adult in the building who knows that student and who knows that student well. Not simply a teacher who recognizes the name, but really an adult who notices change, asks questions, follows up, and helps the student navigate the system. There should be really strong advisory programs, mentoring. There should be regular check-ins. There should be library programs, club, counseling support, and consistent home structures that can all help create that connection. But these programs cannot exist only on paper. A 5-minute advisory period in which students sit silently while attendance is taking is not a relationship building program. Connections Connections requires time and intention. Um, then comes ninth grade. Ninth grade is often treated as the first serious year of high school. Grades begin to feel permanent. Credits matter. Graduation requirements start becoming very real. Students are asked to think about college, careers, employment, and adulthood while they are still adjusting to a new building and a new social environment. The academic consequence or consequences also becomes greater. Students, they're held to their intentions. So a student really who struggles in math in ninth grade may begin falling behind in credits. A failed course can affect future scheduling. A pattern of absences can become difficult to reverse. And a student who begins believing that high school is not a place where success is possible may emotionally withdraw long before officially dropping out. This is why ninth grade should not be treated as a sink or swim year. Too often, schools say that high school students must become responsible. The statement definitely is true, but responsibility does not mean abandonment. Students need increasing independence, but they also need clear systems of support. Independence should be developed gradually. We should not remove every safety net and then criticize students for failing. It's very counterintuitive. Um, Ninth graders need really explicit guidance about graduation requirements, course credit, attendance, academic support, extracurricular activities, and where to go when something goes wrong. They also need adults who can explain that one bad grade or one failed test or one difficult marking period does not define their whole future. Many ninth graders quietly decide who they believe they're going to be as learners. Some begin to think I'm not good at school, or um, I don't want to be here. Others think teachers don't care whether I succeed. Some decide everyone else understands this except me, like a math problem or a science problem or even an English problem. One of the benefits, or one of those beliefs become established, they can influence effort, attendance, behavior, and motivation for years. Schools must intervene before temporary struggles become permanent identities. Um, this means that examining how we respond when students begin missing assignments, skipping class, failing assessments, or withdrawing socially. Knowing where we play a role is a very unique one. And do we respond with curiosity or accusation, or do we ask what is happening, or do we immediately assume the student does not care? That leaves us at a really difficult place. Do we create a recovery plan, or do we allow missing work to pile up until success becomes mathematically impossible? Accountability matters, but accountability without a path forward becomes punishment. Students really must experience consequences, but they must also believe that improvement is possible. It is 100% possible for them to become better readers, writers, have to have a better vocabulary. Um, Libraries really can play an important role in both transition years. The school library is often one of the few spaces that crosses academic and social boundaries. It could become a place where students find books, technology, academic support, how to get or relieve or find quiet, creativity, and a sense of belonging. A sixth grader who feels overwhelmed may find stability in the library, where it just is the same a ninth grader who is struggling with research may find guidance without embarrassment. Clubs, maker spaces, reading groups, media projects, and informed conversations with librarians can help students connect to the school in ways that traditional classrooms may not. Librarians often see students differently because they encounter them outside the pressure of a graded assignment. They may notice the student who always sits alone, the student who visits during lunch, the student who needs help but is afraid to ask, or the student whose interests are not visible in the regular curriculum. I used to look for these type of students when I would roam around the library doing working reference. You'd see the same students over and over again from period to period. And then I knew it was time to ask for some type of intervention. So that perspective should be part of the school's transition planning. Parents and caregivers also need support when this type of thing is happening, when students are struggling, or when students enter middle or high school. Families may receive less direct communication. Instead of one classroom teacher, there may be 6 or 7 teachers. Online portals may contain grades but little explanation. Parents are often told that students need independence, but families still need to understand how the school works. School should not wait until a student is failing to contact home. Families need clear information before problems begin. They need to know whom to call, how to read the grading system, what support exists, how attendance is handled, and how they can help without taking over. Partnerships does not reduce student independence. Done correctly, it strengthens it. The solution is not to make sixth and ninth grade easier, but the solution is to make the transition more intentional, um, more smooth. Schools really can provide orientation before the year begins. Students can tour the building, practice schedules, meet key adults, and learn routines before academic pressure increases. Other students can serve as mentors, especially the older ones. Um, Teachers can really coordinate major assignments so students are not overwhelmed by several large deadlines at once. Um, Schools can create early warning systems that identify changes in advance, uh, and they can be attendance or behavior and performance before students reach a crisis. And the key word here has been before, because we don't want them to step into it, because then sometimes it's hard to pull back out of it. Counselors, librarians, teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, and families can share information and build consistent support. Most importantly, students should be included in the conversation. We should ask them what feels confusing, what makes them anxious, what helps them feel connected, and what adults frequently sort of misunderstand. Students are not simply recipients of transition programs, they're the people experiencing the transition. Sixth to ninth graders matter because they really shape how students see themselves and how they um, see the school ultimately. These years can become points of disconnection or they can become opportunities for growth. They can communicate that students are on their own, or they can demonstrate that independence and support can exist together. Um, we must stop treating transition struggles as personal failures. A student who becomes disorganized, anxious, quiet, defiant, or academically overwhelmed may really be communicating that the environment has changed faster than the student's ability is to adapt to things. We all have the ability to adapt, but it's just how much time it takes each one of us. Um, our, our responsibility is not to remove every challenge. Our responsibility is to make sure students have the relationships, tools, information, and opportunities they need to meet those challenges. Sixth grade and ninth grade should not be years that students simply survive. Um, they should be years in which students learn how to navigate. Um, a lot is change, and they should be able to ask for help, build confidence, form new relationships, and recognize that really they belong in the next stage of their education. When schools get these transition years right, they do more than improve grades. They protect confidence. They, strengthen attendance. They build trust. They really help students imagine a future in which success still feels possible. And that may be one of the most important lessons a school can provide. Thank you for joining me on the Cognitive Edge. Um, I hope that you are following and you're liking the videos. Please feel free to comment, especially on this topic and all the others. I feel like the whole middle school piece is difficult, but everybody's different. Uh, so have a lovely day. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye bye.